African government is hosting a three-day investment conference. The conference is key to President Cyril Ramaphosa's plan to raise $100 billion over the next 5 years. Well, Darryn Faulds, a fund manager with Metta Capital, believes the president should be looking for investments closer to home. Well, he joins us now. Good evening, Darryn. Thanks very much for your time. Well, if, as you point out in your piece, there is some 1 trillion, rands lying there, idle somewhere, that is not being reinvested, into the economy. I mean, whose fault is it?
Well, I think that's 1 trillion rand sitting on corporate balance sheets. That's on the JSE listed cash reserves. This is cash was outside of their working cycle. This is cash that could be used to could be used for investment, and also invested into things that have a 5-year or longer term hold. So that is just purely on a corporate basis. We haven't even touched on what's sitting in the retail investors' idle cash reserves as well. So coming from a statement of Cyril's doing this foreign drive, and he's got a team of envoys that go out and solicit foreign capital. I think what he needs to also focus on is going to the heart and soul of the problem, where South African investors need to invest into their own economy. And there's a large amount of idle cash on corporate balance sheets that are, scared to invest into SA. Yes, they can warrant that, and they understand the risks. But they also government programs and incentives that kind of mitigate those risks and incentivize local investment from local taxpayers. And
is that why you believe that they are not investing this money? Because, Labour has been going on for many, many years, before President Ramaphosa, before even Jacob Zuma, that I think the term that they used, COSATU in particular, was an investment strike. Yeah. The question is why? Because it can't be that you can't say it was Jacob Zuma, for example.
No. The question of why is not, local investment hasn't garnered much interest between. It's quite sad. I think Ramaphosa needs to kind of live here before it lives anywhere else. And to ask why, you could go on policy uncertainty and these kind of phrases that get thrown around, and those are understandable. But there needs to be a yield kind of discussion, which is, South African investments carry a large yield and compensate for the risk taken. And I think that's very important when local, local businesses and retail investors invest into this country. They're looking for those kind of yields that compensate them for the risk they take. And so there is an investment strike going on, and there is a lot of reasons for that, absolutely. But there's also an incentive now government is trying to implement to say, what, let's stop the strike. Let's buy into this plan. Let's buy into this turnaround recovery. And let's really get on this together, because South Africans have demonstrated an ability to come together when things get really tough. And things are really tough. Yesterday the growth rate was slashed by half. We need to come together as a corporate, as retail, as the wealth of the nation, and say, look, there are attractive yields in this country, and there are incentive programs designed to facilitate in local investment. And let's take a punt on South Africa for once.
But I want us to touch on both. First, tell me why you say it's understandable, or some investors have good enough reasons, not to invest.
For sure, I think policy uncertainty is a huge thing. I think you look at all the kind of segments in the market or segments in the economy, there's a lot of uncertainty with regards to policies. And I think that is often a crutch for why they don't want to invest. They have a large amount of capital, but they look offshore at lower yields, lower risk profiles, based on the policy uncertainty we've seen, especially in the last decade. I think that's a big reason that, a big reason why we've had an investment strike, and a big problem that Cyril now needs to overcome and his cabinet need to overcome is making this a very certain place to invest policy-wise, doing everything a government should be doing to facilitate investments through policies, through programs, etc. And I think we slowly turn the corner with regards to some more clarity, and I hope this weekend will provide even more clarity for local investors as well as foreign investors.
So, while that may be true, right, that the fears may be real, you do suggest, unless I'm reading you wrongly, that some of the fears are exaggerated, and in fact, in between, there may well be myths as well that need to be debunked.
For sure, I think it's easy that everyone snowballed on a lot of these risks and a lot of these fears, and I think they've been publicized in the media quite a lot, and I think a lot of people get very caught up in the fact that this is not an investment-free environment to invest into. And yes, that could be, there's arguments for that, and are they exaggerated? Possibly, yes. But I think as an investment now with a pool of capital, I think there's no better time to come into an economy, hopefully at the trough, hopefully at the bottom end of the cycle, come in, and this is when the value investor really looks at the timing to invest. When things are really down in the dumps, when things can be turned around, it's that low base you want to invest into to give you those kind of returns. And we compensate in this country with higher yields to take on a bit more risk. And hopefully with some more clarity coming through, that risk will be mitigated through some certainty. And I think that's all we really want here. It's just some certainty, make the rules on the playing field very certain so that people can go and invest into this economy.
Very, very quickly, what can Cyril Ramaphosa's administration still do to nudge those who may be considering it but are still scared?
Absolutely. I think he can push a lot of his own incentives. I think Section 12J is a fantastic incentive that he can kind of promote to kind of unlock that retail and corporate idle capital. And I think there's a lot of programs and a lot of businesses now who are using that incentive public-private participation section within the Income Tax Act to garner investment growth. And I think, look at some initiatives that he's doing, his own government's doing for the local investor. And very important, this specific piece, Section 12J, is for local investment from local corporates and local retailers. Look what these initiatives are to unlock the local capital before looking over and abroad to unlocking foreign capital. Foreigners want to see South Africans invest in their own economy just as much as they want to invest here. And I think it's very important that he pushes these kind of initiatives, especially in the next weekend, because it's very important that the local people and the local basically market players invest into this economy and are the real drivers of economic growth from the ground up. And then we can look to foreign capital and say, look, this is an investment-free environment. Look, even local investors are now playing in the field. This is the time to invest in South Africa. So push those initiatives that his own government has had in place since 2015, such as Section 12J, and really push it through.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much
for your